Between 2006 and 2010, Syria experienced the most devastating drought in modern history. It was a complete climate catastrophe. But this climate crisis didn't just stay in the fields. It forced an estimated 1.5 million farmers and herders, a massive demographic wave, to abandon their ruined land and flood into cities, which were already suffering from overcrowding and scarcity of jobs and resources. This created a tinderbox of social and economic resentment that was a key trigger for the 2011 Syrian civil war. This is a perfect, tragic microcosm of a threat multiplier, a concept used by military and intelligence agencies. The climate crisis didn't cause the war, but it acted as an accelerant on pre-existing tensions of a fragile state, a struggling economy, and a changing population. Now, in our previous unit on environmental politics, we covered the climate half of this equation in detail. We explored the tragedy of the commons, our failing global institutions, and the concept of environmental security. So in this video, we're not going to rehash those theories. Instead, we're going to focus on the other half of the Syrian story, the human demographic half. We're going to look at the planetary pressures of population, the who and where of humanity, because it's the one part of the equation we haven't explored, and it acts as a powerful engine for the other crises in this unit. Indeed, the 21st century will arguably be defined by a stark demographic divide. On the one side, an aging bust in the great powers like China, Russia, and Europe, who are graying at an alarming rate. On the other, a massive youth bulge in the global south, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, creating a huge young and underemployed population. Let's start with the first half of this divide, the aging bust. This pattern reflects what demographers call the demographic transition, a predictable shift from high birth and high death rates to low birth and death rates as countries develop. But when this transition happens too quickly, it's not just a social problem, it's a fundamental constraint on state power. From a realist perspective, demographic decline is a strategic ceiling. It reduces economic output, limits military recruitment, and undermines a state's ability to compete internationally. Consider the case of China. For decades, its massive population was its greatest economic asset. But its infamous one-child policy was a demographic success that has now turned into an economic catastrophe. Today, China is aging more rapidly than almost any other country in history, and this raises the single most important question for the future of great power competition. Can China get rich before it gets old? For the first time in 30 years, its workforce is shrinking. By 2050, a third of its population will be over 60. This has profound consequences. Economically, it means slowing GDP growth, a crisis in elder care, and potentially an end to its manufacturing miracle. Geopolitically, it complicates the Thucydides trap. Does this demographic decline make China less of a long-term threat? Or does it make China more dangerous right now? Does it create a panic window where Beijing feels it must make its move, on Taiwan for example, before it gets too old or too weak to do so? And if China's demographics are a problem, Russia's represent a full-blown crisis. It's facing a perfect storm of low birth rates, low life expectancy for men, and a massive brain drain of its best and brightest fleeing the regime. All of this complicates Russia's strategy in Ukraine and its future global strategy more broadly. Russia's brutal strategy relies on throwing wave after wave of manpower at the problem, but its pool of young men to recruit is shrinking every year. This demographic reality is a hard physical limit on Putin's grand strategy. The problem of an aging population also presents a massive challenge for Europe and the United States. Indeed, the demographic transition in Europe, with its extremely low birth rates and its long-established social welfare systems, makes aging an existential economic problem. As a result, countries like Italy, Germany, and France are now facing an unsustainable future where a shrinking number of workers has to support the pensions and healthcare of a massive elderly population. This internal economic strain severely limits their ability and their political will to spend on defense and project power abroad. It essentially turns them inward. The United States is in a better position than Europe, thanks largely to higher, though declining birth rates and, historically at least, more immigration. But it's still aging. And this is intensifying the political divide in the United States, which has a strong demographic component. An older, less diverse, and more rural population is often the core base of the populist movement we discussed in an earlier video. This creates a political loop. An aging population supports a more nationalist America First policy that directly undermines the liberal international order that the United States is supposed to be leading. So, all the major powers of the global north are graying. This creates a powerful dynamic. These aging, wealthy countries have a critical labor shortage, creating a massive pull factor, a demand for young labor to sustain their economies and pension funds. But on the other side of this demographic divide, a very different force is building. A push factor in the global south, where millions of young people are being driven to move not by demand, but by desperation. So while the great powers get old, the global south, particularly sub-Saharan Africa and parts of South Asia, is experiencing the exact opposite, a massive youth bulge. This is a demographic explosion. Nigeria is expected to surpass the United States in population by 2050, becoming the third most populous country in the world behind India and China. And this creates an incredible mismatch, a massive, young, energetic, and incredibly urbanized population that is running headfirst into a global economy with a shortage of good jobs. And this is a classic threat multiplier for political instability, extremist recruitment, and state failure. But perhaps the most profound consequence of this youth bulge is mass migration. This is the push factor. It's a generation of young people connected to the world by their smartphones who see no future at home. They're being pushed from the global south by a lack of opportunity and pulled into the global north by the need for labor. And increasingly, migration isn't just a passive demographic imbalance, it's being used as a strategic tool. Some states have begun to weaponize migration, leveraging refugee flows or border crossings to destabilize rivals, extract concessions, or provoke political crises. Critics argue that Belarus pushes migrants towards the Polish border, and Turkey uses the threat of releasing Syrian refugees as a bargaining chip with the European Union. This push also helps drive the populist backlash, as this wave of south to north migration, both real and perceived, fuels the cultural anxiety that drives right-wing populism in the West. The 2015 European migrant crisis, which was triggered by the Syrian conflict and amplified by this broader African demographic push, had direct and immediate political impacts. It was one of the central themes of the Brexit campaign's Take Back Control narrative. It fueled the rise of anti-immigrant populist parties across Europe, including in Germany, France, Italy, and Sweden. It's the perfect example of the threat multiplier in action. The demographic divide in the South, the youth bulge, directly fuels the political crisis in the North, the populist backlash, creating a feedback loop that's left the entire liberal international order paralyzed.